Good evening, I'm Jane Pointer, host of AZ Illustrated Science. On tonight's show, we take a look at how our habits and choices affect our health. We meet a woman taking charge of her health at a surprising juncture in her life, and explore changing ideas about running, the role of exercise in cancer recovery, and our personal responsibility for our wellness. We also learn how our choices may affect our well-being across generations. But first, a look at today's top stories.
The Pima County Board of Supervisors is backing a proposal to raise the state gasoline tax by 10 cents per gallon. If the legislature agrees, the gas tax would go from 18 cents per gallon to 28 cents per gallon and bring in about $250 million for road repair statewide. County Administrator Chuck Huckleberry made the proposal at today's Board of Supervisors meeting, and the board agreed to ask the legislature for the change. The board also wants to ask state lawmakers to stop using transportation taxes to fund other parts of the state budget. That's one of the main reasons local governments say they've fallen behind on road repairs. Meanwhile, a number of budget bills have been introduced at the state legislature, a sign the stalemate between Governor Jan Brewer and Republican legislative leaders may be easing. The proposals call for spending about $8.8 billion next fiscal year, a 1.6% increase over this year's spending. The state will bring in more money next year. The budget proposal does not include Governor Brewer's contentious proposal to expand Medicaid enrollment, the state's health insurance program for poorer residents. Instead, lawmakers offer another option for dealing with Medicaid. They propose freezing enrollment, and if the federal government says no, then spending $135 million in state funds to keep enrollment at its current levels. The budget bills mean lawmakers can begin negotiating publicly about spending priorities. Arizona's State Land Trust Fund has surpassed the $4 billion mark for the first time. State Treasurer Doug Ducey announced the milestone in a quarterly update released today. The trust fund is made up from proceeds from the sale of public land that largely go to fund public education. And that's a look at today's news.
With heaps of health information now available on the internet and a growing number of studies showing the benefits of exercise and a good diet, people are finding it easier than ever to take personal responsibility for their wellness. Tom Klesby takes us along on one woman's personal health journey, a journey motivated by her life's unexpected trajectory.
30 minutes and then a shot and then you're done. Okay. All right. Can I get you anything?
No, not now.
Okay. With my first marriage, we lived in Wyoming and I was a nurse's aide at a hospital. All right, here comes the stick, darling. That's where I met a couple of nurses that, I really looked up to them, and they were women raising families. I just have always was intrigued with that, with taking care of people and the science behind it. And you're feeling okay?
Yes.
Okay. Do you get much nausea the next day after you have this?
No.
My name is Lisa Carney, and I am almost 48 years old, a mother of 6. I'm married to my husband, Sean. We've been married 13 years, and this is my second marriage. My first marriage, I was married for 14 years, and I have 3 children from that marriage, and it's Keely is my oldest daughter. She's 28. I have Katie, she's 26, and then I have Adam. And then there's a 15-year gap, and then I have Isabella, who is almost 7, and then I have the twins, Major and Maddie, who will be 4 the end of September.
That's a neat bracelet.
See it here? Which one?
U.S. Marines.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I have a son who's in the Marines. He's in South Korea right now, so. He's with the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit. They go on ships. I have been a nurse for 24 years. Yeah, okay, sounds good. When I was new to oncology, I had no idea what to expect, and I would hear from people, oh, that must be the most depressing place to work. And what I found is one of the most, if not the most inspirational places that I've ever worked in my life. So 14. Let's get your shoes. We're gonna have a snack. How about we do snack, you guys? I'm going to run the Marine Corps Marathon, and that's October 27th, and it's in Washington, D.C. Mommy's going to cut the seeds out right there, huh? How about that? I know how to be a mother. I know how to be a nurse. I know how to be a wife. So this is a little bit of a challenge for me. Let me see your jumps again. I've always wanted to run a marathon. Wow, I wish I could jump that high. I have 7 months before the marathon starts. So the first 3 months of it, my goal is to work up to 3 miles running nonstop. And I'm also working on losing some weight. And at the 4-month mark, then I'll start a formal training program for this marathon. White. Yay, good job. Yay. Okay, go ahead and get in there. Maddie, you ready? Did you set it down and you forgot? With twins, it can be, very stressful.
Why the car's so big?
Their energy is higher, I think, because they tend to feed off of each other in a way, and so it can be stressful. I want to be one of those calm, patient moms, so there's just a lot of good reasons for me to run. When I saw this marathon, I thought the greatest thing that I could do would be to run this in honor of my son's service to our country. Here we go. He knows how I feel about his service to our country and how proud I am. And maybe I have no idea how hard it's going to be, but that's okay, because that's keeping me going. Everywhere, isn't there? There's ladybugs, there's ants, there's bumblebees, there's all kinds of bugs. And I may not be the best runner, but I've always loved it. One day was out running and thought, I can't do this. And I knew I needed to get to a certain point, and I just said, look, if my son can go through boot camp and my son can, train in the jungle and mountain climb, I can make this next lap. And it surprisingly worked. All right, you're done with that. Well, I anticipate it's going to be rough. Okay. I just want to be able to finish it. How are you today? Good?
Lisa Carney exemplifies the changing demographics of marathon runners. More and more of the millions of runners who finish those grueling 26 2/10 miles are women. According to Running USA, the percentage of marathon runners who are women has increased from 11% in 1980 to 42% in 2012. Marathon runners are getting older too. Since 1980, the percentage of marathon runners aged 40 and older has gone from 26 to 46%. These changing demographics are reflected in our local races as well, as John Sabatine of the Southern Arizona Roadrunners explains.
I actually direct one of the races we just had here in town, the Sabino Canyon Sunset Run, and I do the registration for those. I started looking at the demographics and saying, it really is a lot of people out there that are in their 50s and 60s, especially a lot of women, and they're really not there to win the race. In the past, we had a situation where, like in the 80s, where it was really about running to win, men especially, a lot of men, and the goal was to win. So they were all out there running hard, running fast, sweating like crazy, and trying to win the race. And these days, we're seeing a lot more women. It's definitely gotten a little older. Now, the issue with the slower people in things like marathons is in the past, you could expect most people to finish within like a 4-hour time frame. In the 80s, some courses would only support out to 4 hours, maybe 5 hours. So basically, if you're going to take longer than that, you're on your own. Bring your own water, stay on the sidewalks, avoid the cars, and that kind of thing. And these days, it's very common for a race to support it up to even 8 hours, maybe even 10 hours. The emphasis is really just about finishing. The women that are 65, that you can tell it took a lot of effort for them to get out there and just finish that, they get huge cheers from the crowd. Because we know how hard it was for them. A 22-year-old guy who's really thin, who is obviously a runner, probably ran in college. Well, it's good that he won, and that's cool, but it wasn't that hard for him. That's maybe what people think. It is hard for him, but it's also hard for everybody. So, everyone has to cover the same distance. So it's just a different feel to it, where it's less about the winning and more about participating.
The Obama administration was on the defensive on two fronts today, facing tough questions about the IRS's scrutiny of conservative groups and the Justice Department's seizure of reporters' phone records.
We start with the IRS under fire, with a criminal investigation now underway after reports its audits of Tea Party and other groups extended to officials in Washington.
And we examine the clash between the First Amendment and leaked classified information after the government secretly obtained phone logs of the Associated Press.
Then Fred DeSam Lazaro reports on a new approach to educate and engage millions of India's poorest students.
Margaret Warner has the strange story of a detained American diplomat, his wigs, and Russia's claims he was a spy.
And political editor Christina Bellantoni talks with the author of a new book that explores how technology is impacting our democracy.
That's all ahead on tonight's NewsHour.
A mother works to support her family, but is still made to feel guilty that she's not constantly around school.
I showed up for the preschool graduation and they all looked at me like, who are you? And I felt like the bad mom moment, like he's got the Dad of the Year award and I'm sitting on the sidelines a little bit.
When women's roles change and society's expectations do not, on the next Morning Edition from NPR News.
Not only do people have more access to health information than ever before, they're feeling more and more responsible for their wellness to the point of obsession, according to some doctors and experts. Joining us in the studio is University of Arizona medical anthropologist Mark Nichter to explain this phenomenon and how people are handling the increasing pressure to be healthy. Well, thanks for coming in. So why don't we start out talking about how concerned people generally are about their health, and really, has it become an obsession, do you think, for some people?
Well, I wouldn't use the word obsession to begin with. And I think when we think of people, we have to think of people of different social classes to start off with. So whereas for some people, health and living well for a much longer period of time has become far more important to them, and they have the wherewithal to do it. For a lot of people, health is becoming an incredible concern given fears that people have about becoming ill, the costs that are involved with this, losing their jobs, so forth and so on. So I think we have to talk about different parts of the population. But I think what happens to both segments of the population, the latter one being much larger than the former, is that people are being inundated with all kinds of information now, far more information than they ever were, about not only themselves and their own personal health. We have all kinds of tests, the number of diagnostic tests we have. Just imagine how much this is going to be growing in the next 5, 10, 15 years. We have far more information that can tell us about not only our health now, but the prospects of what our health might be in the future, which can also put us in the sense of feeling at risk even when we're not ill, or feeling that we need to be doing something and be taking responsibility. But we also have a lot more information about the health risks in the environment, the products that we consume, whether these are foods, even medications. I mean, how often in the news do we hear about a medication that we thought was terrific and 5 years later we find out was very, very harmful? So social scientists like myself have talked about this in terms of living more and more in terms of a risk society where people have far more doubts. They're given a lot more information, but they really doubt. They have a lot of doubts about what's good and what's bad. A lot of the goods that we create now we are coming to associate with bads.
So you write about a term that you call harm reduction. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
Well, harm reduction essentially means that people are trying to minimize the amount of harm or risk that they perceive being exposed to. And they do this with whatever resources they possibly have. On one hand, you have people who are trying to, perhaps their diet's not the best in the world, So perhaps they take dietary supplements. We have a booming dietary supplement vitamin business in this country, which is growing exponentially. That's one very simple example of this. We have students here at U of A who live on ramen and take vitamins that their mother sends them as a means of counterbalancing. But I also talk about harm reduction in relation to a harm reduction industry. Almost anything you can imagine in this country is being sold with a harm reduction, a different type of brand. So I would claim that in the United States, we're probably our market is more inundated with products that are advertised about what they don't have as opposed to what they do have. If you were to travel in Europe, for example, you wouldn't find the number of products which claim not to have all kinds of things in them that they perhaps never had to begin with. No sodium, no caffeine, no cholesterol, no fat. It's totally confusing to people. But I think it's important because the industry is tapping into not only a market segment, but a perceived need that people have.
So you're saying we're being manipulated?
Well, manipulated is a loaded term. Of course we are. Marketing is manipulation. It's kind of social engineering. But the question is, not only are we being manipulated, the question is, how are we complicit in this? It's not just the industry. We want something, the industry's supplying it. We want an easier fix. If you can't do something dramatic, you at least want to be doing something where you feel you're doing something good. You'll eat that potato chip that has 20% less fat in it, and you'll feel better about yourself than eating or milk that has a little bit less fat in it. You want a sense of agency that you're doing something for yourself. Even if you can't do a lot, you're doing something. And this industry will supply you with every single product that you can imagine with a harm reduction version of it.
All right, well, thank you very much. I'm sorry we have to leave it right there, but thank you so much for coming in and talking with us about this today.
Sure.
Sometimes the health choices we make, like what we eat or how we exercise, aren't just about preventing disease. A new study suggests that exercise can also help patients recover and restore their health after surviving breast cancer. That study was led by Dr. Jennifer B., an assistant professor of medicine in the University of Arizona Cancer Center, who joins us now. Thank you so much for coming in today.
My pleasure.
And this is such an important subject for so many women who are affected by breast cancer. So what has your research done with connecting these lifestyle choices with breast cancer and its survival and recovery?
Well, based on prior work showing that people are at greater risk of cancer if they have low levels of physical activity, we have been aggressively trying to study what physical activity can do for you in terms of preventing cancer and then also following cancer in terms of recovery. And my most recent study was in particular looking at that recovery phase. We had survivors anywhere from 6 months post-treatment all the way out to 5 years or more post-treatment doing aggressive resistance training exercises like weightlifting in the gym, and stretching and aerobic activity at home, and also some balance training. And we found just a wonderful camaraderie between the women coming together for their activity groups, increases in anti-inflammatory markers that you might find circulating in the blood. We also found some really favorable changes in terms of body composition, meaning increasing their muscle mass in arms and legs, while we had a trend towards decreasing fat mass.
And so what does all of that really mean for their quality of life or their
Well, we think that inflammatory markers and estrogens and growth factors are associated with promoting tumors. And so if we can reverse that a bit, or at least minimize them, then we may have a better chance at keeping people away from recurrence of their cancer or second cancers.
So estrogen, as an example, is something that is reduced by exercise?
It is. At least the ratios of metabolites from estrogen are changed with exercise. There's a very recent study coming out this week called the WISER study that's showing some of these more detailed shifts in the metabolites of estrogen. So it'll be very exciting for when their study releases this week.
Yeah, that's exciting. So now let's talk a little bit about the exercise itself. How much exercise? type of exercise?
That's a really important question. So when people are in the throes of chemotherapy and radiation, I would say anything is better than nothing. Trying to move and trying not to be sedentary is our main recommendation. There are going to be days where survivors just really can't get off the couch for much and do a full routine. And so if they can, though, get up, maybe do a lap around the house or around the block, whatever they feel that they can handle, it will help. On better days, then, and post-treatment, we would recommend getting up to at least 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity aerobically per week, and 2 to 3 days per week of weight training to keep that strength up. It's also recommended that older individuals work on balance training to prevent falls.
And what about prevention? I mean, I understand also that there's research that shows this kind of exercise can even help prevent cancer in the first place.
Yes, absolutely. Lower levels of physical activity are associated with increased risk of cancer, and higher levels of physical activity are associated with decreased incidence of cancer. We also see, after diagnosis, a benefit in terms of mortality, overall mortality, and breast cancer associated mortality and recurrence, up to a 50% decrease with higher levels of physical activity. And it's really not much. It's about, it's 9 med hours per week. I have to think about converting that. It's about 3 hours per week of walking at about 3 miles per hour. That's a rough estimate. So it's not a lot. It's doable.
That's not a lot, really.
Right.
So if we just all went for a walk around our neighborhoods every day or every other day, we'd be doing it.
Absolutely. And get yourself to a level of moderate intensity where you feel like you can talk, you can have a friendly conversation as you're walking along, but you wouldn't be able to sing. If you can sing, you're not really in that moderate zone. So that's a nice test, the talk test.
That's really astounding. I mean, having a moderate physical exercise really is showing to have effects on so many different aspects of our health.
Absolutely. And actually, it's shown that women who hold comorbidities of like diabetes, for example, after breast cancer or in association with their breast cancer, have a much higher risk of mortality. So physical activity has been shown time and time again to bring insulin and glucose back into balance and reduce those diabetes markers that you would naturally think of. And so it's great for that as well. Working with the comorbidities, also working with the cancer.
Well, this is really fascinating stuff that you're telling us about. I mean, it seems so simple. All we have to do is go walk around the neighborhood. That's just awesome.
The hard part is getting people to do it. So if it were a pill, I think people would take it. This is actually better than any pill we can prescribe, and it's really hard to get people to keep it up. So hopefully this will help.
Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
Whether they're training for marathons, exercising their way through cancer recovery, or changing their eating habits, people who take care of their health are making changes to their bodies that may affect their well-being long-term and even across generations. Life Course Medicine is helping researchers understand these changes. Here to discuss this new field is Patricia Settle, a clinical nutritionist in the University of Arizona Pediatric Pulmonary Center. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
So, what is life course theory? Tell us a little about that.
Well, there's several things at play in trying to understand life course theory. In many ways, it's very intuitive. It's something that everyone has heard of: nature versus nurture, environment, genetics. This is a way of putting together health concepts that just make sense. They're common sense, especially to people that work in the medical healthcare field or to people that work in public health. The whole idea, there are decisions. Sometimes they affect us profoundly at the moment. Other times, these are decisions that they're cumulative and have a cumulative effect over time. Also, that our health is a continuous process, and so it's also tied together throughout the generations. And so things that we don't think are affecting us actually have a long-term effect throughout. Parents may have affected our health, and our health then affects our children's health.
So could you give us a specific example to help us really see this?
Okay. One of the things that, life courses, I was saying, it does tie in biology, it ties in genetics, it ties in the environment, which are like social issues, and it ties in behavior. So say you have two children, two little girls from very similar backgrounds. They're both brought up with pretty good education and an intact family. One of them is in an accident, and when she has an accident, say she's hit by a car, and her parents are able to go with her to the hospital, and she has good treatment. She's able to get some counseling afterwards, but her parents work, and she's very traumatized by this event and has a lot of problems with it, and ends up having friends that are not, she has scarring, and she has trouble during school and drops out of school. Another little girl, let's say, is born with a chronic disease, so you would think, like say cystic fibrosis. I work with cystic fibrosis patients, and she does well. She's got this disease, but she gets good care. Her parents are very adherent, and one would think that she might really have some trouble getting through life, but she actually gets scholarships. She develops a career, and in looking at a certain point ahead, these two children that started out, and one of them having something biologically that could have put her and have an adverse effect, she ends up doing much better than the other child.
So your work looks at the different factors?
It looks at everything. It looks at everything from genetic factors, biological, community. You have different aspects in your environment that affect you, and so all of it taken together.
And so why is this important for our viewers to really consider this?
Well, it's important for one thing to know that health is a continuum. It's not just isolated events from time. It's important to know that to look at the relationship of health between the family members. It's also important to know that there are very critical periods of time, like pregnancy, infancy, adolescence, when some things that happen to us have a more an effect that really follows us for a longer period of time. So it's important to be aware of this, and that we try and intervene for some of these factors earlier, because if we do it earlier, then the results are better, it's more cost effective, and this will have a better effect and better outcome on health.
And so I see you brought some pieces of the game that you use to train.
Yes, we do. We train. I work in the Pediatric Pulmonary Center. We have trainees, and we train other healthcare professionals and our trainees in different disciplines. So we want them to understand the concept of life course theory. So how the game starts is that we have what's called a birth certificate, and each each player draws a birth certificate. And this particular one is, it gives different parameters of social and biological basis. So this child is non-white. The birth weight is 3 pounds, 5 ounces. The child was born at 26 weeks. The parents have high school education. The mother's unemployed, the father's incarcerated, and they are single. So this child would be considered disadvantaged.
We have just a few seconds left.
Okay.
So go through the whole game.
So you roll dice, and you stop on different things throughout the game. You draw risk factors.
Different things that happen in their life.
Yes, risk factors and things that help make your health better. So the risk factor is a negative thing. The positive things can make it better. And in the end, you roll your dice, and you get a read to you what happens to you, and it's based on everything throughout the game that happens.
Thank you so very much for coming in and talking with us about this today.
Okay, thank you very much for having me.
We hope you enjoyed tonight's show. To post a comment on any of the stories you just saw, or to keep up with the latest news, visit our website at azpm.org. I'm Jane Pointer. Thanks for joining us.